Alright guys, HyDra back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The first major of the season is coming up this weekend. OpTic Texas looking to bounce back from a massively underwhelming weekend. 0 map wins against Miami and FaZe, and they play Heretics again at the first round of the tournament. Kenny though explains what's happened, especially in the FaZe series and their point of view, and why they're still very confident, based on the way practice has gone, they can actually come into this major and still win it. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. As you can probably tell, travel day for me today. While you're watching this, I'll probably be on a flight to Boston, so that's very exciting stuff. Be there for, well, a little bit early so we can get everything set up for what's going to be a very exciting weekend. Plenty of storylines though I wanted to go through today. Firstly, on this one, you guys obviously saw that Clay had 2 phenomenal individual performances this weekend. Unfortunately, neither converted into a series victory against either FaZe or the Los Angeles Thieves. But we decided with Clay a little while ago now we wanted to do kind of like a Last Dance-esque documentary series. I'm not saying it's necessarily going to be Clay's last season, but I want to do a documentary where we look at Clay's career as it presently stands, follow him through the storyline of this current season, but also look back and flash back to, you know, memories and, you know, what's been an absolutely legendary career. So, you know, we're working on that with Clay, and it was pretty funny really, because we got on a call with Clay the other day and we were trying to, you know, because he was in a pretty tough spot, right, over the last, let's say, a week or so ago. Teams making roster changes, not looking so good, and, you know, I think after we had this discussion about what we wanted to do, Clay was pretty hyped up, you know. I was like, okay, well, I need to deliver, I need to start performing here if I want this series to look good. And guess what, he comes out the next couple of days and absolutely fries. So long may that continue, and Shorston and others are going to be working on this. You guys know Shorston working on the process and all this stuff, so it's going to be spectacular. Very much looking forward to seeing how that one's going to go. There was also a big update for you guys on Mohawk. I can't lie, it's like Mohawk and some of these challenger guys, he was, well, offered potentially to the Paris Legion a couple of years ago, turned that opportunity down, and there's been lots of talk about this guy, and okay, you should get him in the league and all this stuff, and like, it's been a tough spot, because if you guys weren't aware, he didn't wake up in time for the first cup, so his team got forfeited, which is not ideal, so they dropped him basically, and I think that's probably fair enough. So Gravity's dropped him and Phantoms is coming in instead, and now he's playing with these other guys. So yeah, little bit of an unfortunate downturn for that, but like, you can't wake up for your job at like, if it was like 1 PM or something, it's like, come on, if you can't wake up for 1 PM for a cup, then I think you kind of deserve what's coming to you to some respects. But this past weekend was massively interesting. We actually gave Vikul the weekend MVP. There was others you could argue, certainly Cell, you know, even maybe Scrappy and some other players like this, but I thought really Miami did such a good job this weekend with the opponents they had, playing OpTic of course, and you know, defeating them in the manner that they did. Vikul was a massively important part as to why, and individually I thought he was arguably the most impactful player this weekend, so we gave it to Vikul, which I thought was kind of nice to see. But it was a good weekend for FaZe. Obviously they secured the #1 seed, 7-0 start to the season so far, the first ever team to go 7-0 in a set of qualifiers, because there's never been 7 qualifiers before, and I kind of wish there wasn't, but it is what it is. And also on the same day, FaZe won the Challengers Cup, or the FaZe back team won the Challengers Cup at the same time, so that's obviously a good sign for them. And it was FaZe's first time on that day beating OpTic in like 2 years. I mean, as JKL says, this fan here was celebrating finally beating OpTic for the first time in 18 months. So yeah, pretty wild really that it's been that long. It didn't beat them at all last season. The year before it was like 6-1 or whatever, 5-1 in OpTic's favour again. So well, that seems to be turning around, and this is how Turtle has currently the set of like performance ratings for the qualifiers, which is, as you might expect, very similar to what the actual standings presently is. So Rocker though, after winning loads of maps in a row, have made a bit of a resurgence. They are, according to this kind of strength thing, potentially the 6th strongest team, which feels a little bit like over-egging them after their recent performances, but I guess you can't, you know, compared to the other teams they're around, it's a pretty tightly packed midfield, and, you know, maybe in the early couple of weeks of this season we felt like, alright, it's a super top-heavy league, and it still is in part, but I don't know, I think there's more competition in this kind of mid-pack than we maybe give it credit for. And even Ravens, the worst team on here technically, they, you know, FaZe only lost 5 maps this stint, and Ravens were 2 of those maps they lost, and they could have potentially lost the series if Ravens' search was a bit better when they played them. But as it stands, OpTic are listed 5th here, and to be fair, that's pretty justifiable, right? I mean, going into the major, OpTic will be favoured in that series. They will be, you know, the favourite against Heretics, I think. But they're arguably not the better team, right? I mean, let's be honest. They got 3 the other day. Miami have been looking pretty good against most teams they've played. OpTic have looked, you know, even shaky against teams like Vegas. So, you know, and they got 3 by FaZe. So, you know, there's questions as to who should be the favourite there. It's certainly the pick of the round 1 matches. And Miami will be looking to, well, do the same to them online than they did, you know, they want to, of course, on LAN. So Kenny goes into some detail here on exactly exactly how things went for OpTic this past weekend, especially in the FaZe series really, discussing the issue with the ping situation, right? We saw that quite loud and clear on Twitter after the fact that the guys on OpTic were lagging. They had this, either between 40 ping or up to 70 ping issues that they were experiencing during the series, and they realized, like, it's the last series, it's a late day. Instead of just, getting things delayed and trying to find a new server and doing all this stuff, let's just play it out. We're in the winners bracket anyway. They were going to play Miami anyway. But the issue is for OpTic, I suppose, is that, as Kenny potentially implies, like, they were lagging wasn't the reason why they lost, is what they tweeted out, that they didn't play well enough anyway, but that's clearly not optimal. And also, there's a part where if you are lagging, you probably think, all right, whatever, like maybe on LAN, it'll be a different story. Now, against Miami, it's tough to have too many of the similar excuses because it didn't seem like they were internet issues in that particular one, but Kenny does explain that their practice over the last few days has still been very good. Now, as I've said before, and we'll say again at some point in the future, every team says their practice is good, right? But to be fair, Kenny does say they've been making strides. It's not a surprise, really, that OpTic are, as it stands, probably the least practiced of some of the top teams. That's nobody's fault but their own, right? Let's be honest. But it is a talking point that because Pred went back home and everything like this after the New Year period, they probably were, further behind on the new patch update that came in around Christmas with the new terminal spawns and stuff like this. They're probably a bit behind some of the other top teams. And to such an extent that people are suggesting that if OpTic come in here and get 4th place of the tournament, that's a pretty good tournament, which is not what, OpTic would want to think about. But to be fair, that's probably right. If they make Sunday this tournament OpTic behind FaZe, Ultra, whatever, I don't think they can place 4th behind FaZe, Ultra, and the Subliners, just the way the bracket works. Like, they'll have to beat one of Ultra or New York probably to make it through all the way to top 3, or to top 4 potentially if they go through the losers bracket, the way the bracket is potentially going to play out. So, but still, 4th place of this tournament for OpTic, given the way things are, would feel like a bit of a decent result given the maybe lack of practice, whatever you want to say, that's, obviously no fault but their own, let's be honest. But nonetheless, Kenny says they've been making big strides, maybe because they're somewhat under practice compared to other teams. They've got lots of room for improvement, and they reckon that they've been performing well in practice and getting significantly better, but maybe that isn't showing quite yet in their online matches. They believe, though, they can translate that when they get to LAN.
In our match today, our pings were just fluctuating. Simple as that. We don't know if it changes the result or not. It doesn't even matter. It's just the fact that they are fluctuating, and it's as simple as that. Not once did we try to get them to end it, because at the same time, it's the last match for the LAN. We just wanted to play it out. I tweeted out the pick because out of frustration, because it became extreme. Because at first it was only going up to 48, and then it became 70, and it just got worse and worse as the series went on. Regardless of the fact, I feel like people think that we don't think we don't know that we're not where we want to be right now. But I can confidently say practice has actually been going well for us, and we're actually taking steps in the right direction. For me, that's the only shit I'm gonna say about the shit. We have LAN next week, and we're still going in as confident as ever, because we obviously want to win the tournament, and I think we have a good chance to win the tournament no matter how our weekend looked.
I'm gonna hold my.
There it is. I'm just an OG fan for 2012. I wanted my team to do well. That's all I'm saying. Exactly. So then you should allow me to play ranked and enjoy myself. If I think that's what's gonna make us do well, then that's what I'm gonna do. How you gonna tell us what to do when we're the professionals?
Kenny also cooking this guy over, telling him to stop playing ranked and practice and all this type of stuff. Look, I think the pros know best at the end of the day, and they play a lot of COD anyway. They play a lot with their team. They do a lot of VOD review, especially, the way that Kenny is as an individual. I'm sure that he's way more confident, as he has been for the last several years, going to LAN rather than in online play. But I think the concern that I would have for OpTic in this series is that if they take the mindset that, well, it was just online, we went 0-6 the last weekend, we're better than what that showed, which I think is definitely true. OpTic are definitely better than what that showed, and I'd be very surprised if they get 3-0 again by Miami, right? But I think it's going to be a close series. Lots of people are picking Miami in this one, and I think for very good reason. But I think what OpTic have to be slightly careful of is that they can't just dismiss this week's performance by, oh, well, it was online, we were lagging a bit. Clearly, they weren't good enough in either match, and they've got to improve. Kenny obviously knows that, Karma knows that, the rest of the guys know that, and this is why I think Kenny's going to be a good addition, because, you know, he's going to bring that level-headedness to the team. You would think. It goes both ways, right? Is Kenny going to get, I don't want to say corrupted precisely, but, you know, what Kenny is meant to bring to the team, this like level-headedness and, you know, analysing the situation as it potentially is rather than how they would like it to be, and we'll see how that develops, right? Because if Kenny does adopt the mindset of, well, it was just online, it doesn't matter, they turn up map 1 and get smoked again by Miami, 250 to 140, all of a sudden they're like, oh my god, we're actually not any good. And that's the concern for OpTic, is that, you know, they need to realise that it's 100% focus, they've got to be at the major, and they need to play significantly better, because if they turn up to the major and get punched in the mouth map 1, then all of a sudden the heads drop, and then, you know, it's potentially even a worse performance on the cards than we might have even expected. I mean, aBeZy even predicted that after they get beaten by Miami, they're going to finish top 12, which is a pretty outrageous take, to be honest, because if they lose, they play Vegas, and you've got a hard time believing that Vegas are going to beat OpTic on LAN. I mean, but let's be honest, they won map 2, 1 and 2 against them online, and, you know, even the game 4 terminal in that comeback reverse sweep was pretty close, and then obviously OpTic ran away with it game 5 because they were full of confidence. So, you know, I don't know, I think it is a confidence thing for OpTic a lot of the time. If they play Miami and they expect to beat them just because, you know, they think they're the better team and it was all just online for gays or whatever, then they actually lose to them, then all of a sudden they're in a, confidence-wise, they're in a bit of a tricky spot. And, yeah, I don't know, look, aBeZy maybe is wrong on this one, we'll see, right? But it's quite the take. And OpTic at the first major last year, weren't they top 12 at Raleigh or whatever last year? Slightly different story, slightly different timeline, but maybe not, you know, drastically different. But usually it's this type of event where OpTic are good. This is historically the thing, that the first or so event of the season, that's when OpTic have their most success, and then towards the end it kind of goes the other way. Maybe some OpTic fans are pretty happy that it's starting not so well this year, and then maybe has room to improve. But, you know, FaZe and Ultra and New York and these other teams with the great culture and the great work ethic, they always improve. So that's the challenge. Just to mention this for you guys, the OBJ Player of the Year ladder, Dashy still tops the way here in terms of all the hardpoint time, although his lead there has diminished somewhat just because they haven't won that many hardpoints lately, so Dashy hasn't really been picking up as much time. But Insight second place on this, obviously, you know, we've gassed them inside a fair bit. Envoy, Drazah and Kenny, and also a quick change to the Rookie of the Year ladder. Gwyn is still number 1 in our estimations, but after recent performances, and I think for very good reason, Linz has moved into the number 2 spot ahead of Snoopy. And look, if Linz continues to fry on Rocker, he is definitely candidate for Rookie of the Year, because, you know, that team seems to be making some steps forward. Linz is the primary reason why, and has been super impactful for the squad. Of course, Real is now on the sub bench, so it's kind of difficult to say, therefore Purge, I guess, moves up to 6th. aBeZy, though, down in 5th, which was, you know, definitely surprising. I wonder how it would have gone if Linz and aBeZy had ended up on the same team, as they could have done on, you know, it was linked to Surge or linked even to Thieves as a possibility, but of course that never happened. Estriel 4th. Gwyn, though, still leads the way at the first place rankings for now, and I think that's probably justified based on the way that he's played. But if Rocker continue to actually start having success and Ravens don't, then I think the top of this is going to change quite significantly. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.